Hi, Dave. Can you guys let me know, is that clear enough on the fly this time? Just a thumbs up will do. Cool, thanks, Dave. Hi, Dave. Hope everybody's got a drink. Cheers, Rob. There is a little bit of lag tonight, guys, so I'm sort of, as messages come in, I'm sort of looking at them. Evening, Kieran. Thanks, John. Yeah, I've been messing around with the camera this week and trying to work out the best things to do so that you can see what I'm doing in a bit more detail. Last week was very much an exploratory session where we learned lots of stuff. And I've been playing around with lots of different ideas, but this is the one I'm most comfortable with at the moment. Yep, Kieran, that is on my phone. It is very clear, isn't it? I do like the camera on the Samsung. Yeah, so tonight, guys, the plan is to sort of delve into this world of damsels and try and demystify all the stuff out there and actually give you some ideas to go away with, but also for those of you that are season tires to sort of, you know, chip in as well, please, and add anything that you want. So which would be really helpful. So I've got one here that I knocked up a little bit earlier on, which is just very simple. There's nothing complicated about this. You know, it's just a bit of marabou, a bit of dubbing, some flash, and a bit of blue in there, and a blue bead. But on the whole, it'll catch fish, and that's ultimately what we do this for. So it's really, really, really important. So who have we got that's coming in? I'm just sort of looking at the messages as they're coming in. So if I go off screen, that's because I've got them on my laptop, so I can't see my phone screen. So Ash has just dropped in. Nice to see you, Ash. I've got 22 people with us so far tonight, which is fantastic. Yeah, thanks, Jane. Yeah, doing my bit for the Angling Trust, Anglers Against Pollution. You know, it's I do my overall degree ultimately is in environmental pollution and biochemistry, so I've sort of got a vested interest in it more than anything, and the fact that I teach kids all the time, and they've got no idea about anything really. This day and age, it's quite scary. So yeah, we'll give a little bit of time just for everyone to come in. So if you've got any questions, chuck them in. Yeah, the hoodie, I know this isn't a fashion blog, but I could be. The hoodie, I'm not a big hoodie fan, but it is so comfortable. It's got this nice fleecy internal lining that it's just like you can snuggle up in it, which is great. I can just see the wife nicking it though, which is a little bit of a problem. But hey, that's the way it is. So tonight, I hope you've all got a drink. I'm sitting here tonight's tipple of choice. I ran out of my my local homegrown beer because I've been drinking it all week. So I'm onto the Hobgoblin tonight. So I've got a nice ruby ale here, ruby beer, to keep me going and lubricated during the course of this evening. What moisturiser do I use, Chris? Very, very simple. I'm a big Clinique fan, to be fair. I use that quite a lot. But I have since discovered that, you know, the shaving company Harry's that do those new razors and stuff and things like that. That's they do a good moisturizer as well. Oh man, Mr. Nason got the t-shirt. We can't do anything on our own, can we? Never mind. Never mind. We can be angling trust anglers against pollution buddies. Yeah, that Clinique posh stuff. Yeah, yeah. You met my wife. She's very expensive. Thankfully, she doesn't watch this. Right then, guys. Okay, so I'm going to start off this evening. We learned a lot last week, and if you enjoyed last week's and hopefully we're going to get a bit better at it as we go along, because it is very much a learning curve. But feel free to have a look up in the files tab on the Facebook page for the group, because there are some step-by-steps that Kieran and I have put together over the last week or so, following on from last week's tying, to show you how to tie those buzzers step by step. And this week I'll also be doing the same with any Damsel patterns that I tie to put up there as well. So it'll give you lots to have a look at and share, and any feedback on those is great, because we're putting them together. We think they make sense, but it's all about the final product from you guys. So if you find that they're useful, that's absolutely fantastic. Little caveat straight in for this evening: in no way am I saying that I am an absolute expert in absolutely everything fly tying, but I can tie flies. They do catch fish, and I've got a few little secrets and a few little tips that I've learned along the way in tying. And also, if you throw in some questions, I'm sure that either myself or any of the other guys that are here if you've got any other questions, everybody else will be more than happy to chip in with ideas. Sharing experiences is what this is all about. I hope nobody is suffering from the dreaded COVID. We've had a bit of a week of it over here, with schools being closed and all those sorts of things. So I'm not going to talk anything about that, but it's been a mental week, and this is a really nice relief to be able to start tying. Right, so I'm going to start off. Here we go. Gonna knock that one out. Right, so I'm going to start off tonight. I'm going to start with a streamer hook. Now, I've tried lots of different hooks. I do have favourites for particular flies, and I have particular brands that I favour. But there are some brands that do a hook in a particular type that I really like, and other brands don't do it, or theirs isn't as good. For instance, there's a Partridge Clinkhammer hook, the 15BN that, and in the barbless that if I see them and I can buy them, I'll buy them in bulk, because they're very, very difficult to get hold of most of the time. But I tie so many dry fly patterns on them. My stimulators in particular are on those, and they're just an amazing hook. Whereas I'm going to be tying tonight. I'm going to try and use some of these, so Sprite hooks. This is a size 12 streamer hook. It's really good for long nymphs as well. And the 14 is particularly nice for slightly longer bodied nymphs as well. So not just streamer hooks, they're actually quite nice hooks for your nymphs. These are barbless, but we do a barbed range as well. Okay, so I'll just throw that in there. So I'm going to start off with a size 12 hook. Let me just grab one. Another little tip for you that I've got here is that you probably recognise these things. These are those little cups that you get in McDonald's that you put your or other takeaways that you put your condiments in. My little boy is taken to collecting them and giving them to me, because they make really good receptacles for putting hooks in if you're tying multiple different flies of the same type, but also beads so they don't fall off your bench. And they're absolutely fantastic. So another little life hack there for us. So I'm just going to put in the hook. There we go. Just going to give it a flick. There we go. That nice sound. And we're going to start off now. I'm going to look. I have my beads here somewhere. I've got so much stuff lying around now. There they go. So I've got my beads. I'm going to use a blue bead today. There it is. I'm going to use a blue bead. These are 3.3 mil, these ones. They're blue, anodized blue. They're not easy to get hold of. Phil, holding at the Fly Time Boutique, I know is able to get hold of some nice beads. But blue in the anodized, in this electric blue, are not, you can't frequently find them. You can find them in a very washed out blue, but this deep electric blue is worth looking out for. Does it make a difference? Well, I've caught more fish on my blue beaded flies than I have on any that had a gold bead when I've been fishing damsels. But that sort of gets skewed because we're at that point where I'd fish this damsel more than anything else, so therefore I'm going to catch more fish in theory. So the data is just telling us one story. So there we go. I'm going to put my little blue bead on right at the top, and tonight I'm going to be using some Semperfli wax thread in pale olive to start off. There it is, Semperfli. It's a 12/0. Nice size. Do like using the 12 compared to the 8. Just reduces bulk that little bit, but it's not so fine that it's going to snap. The other one that I do like using is the Semperfli spider thread as well. I do like using this one in a lot of my pans, particularly quite a few of my dries. Okay, so we're going to start off. All I'm going to do is, as we always start off, just going to start off and I'm going to tie in just behind the bead. Now that bead's going to move. I've seen lots of people and I've read lots of stuff where people like to build a dam up behind it to stop it moving. I've never really had too much of an issue with that, but I can just build up a little bit of a layer, and then I'm going to bring my bobbin and my thread down in wraps all the way down the shank. Doesn't have to be in touching turns, but it was instilled in me years ago to always do touching turns, and I just can't get out of it. So I'm going to just pull back with my thread towards me, use that to push my wraps back so they're all butting up against each other, and take it all the way down the length of the shank until I get to approximately in line with where the barb either is or should be. Okay, so you can see my bobbin hanging here, and we can see that just here it's in line roughly where a barb might be, where it would have been cut into the original hook. I'm just going to take 1, 2, 3 turns back up, because that allows me just to pull and snap off my tag end, and it means I'm not left with a tiny little bit of tag end sticking out, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to go back over and just finish there. So now I've got my underbody all laid in. Next stage is my marabou. So I'm going to use marabou for this. I'm going to nice marabou tail. There's loads and loads of different marabous out there. You can buy them from vineyards. You can buy them from Nature's Spirit. There's so many. I do favour the Nature's Spirit marabou. There it is. I don't know if you can see that. The Nature's Spirit marabou. Okay. But there it is. It's nice and long. It's prime marabou. This is the dark olive. They do it in a lighter olive. But here, I can just bring it back about here. It's got these really, really nice long sections of feather, which are really, really good, particularly if we're going to form a body from it as well, which we might do in a moment. Okay. So, let me go have a drink. Let's have a look and see what people are saying so far. Got 25 people on, that's great. My beads are all organised, Dave. Yeah, so lots of really cool things. So here we go. I'm going to use the marabou here to form a tail, and people always say to me, well, how much do I use? Well, it's up to you. I like a sparse-ish tail that just gives that that indication that it's a wiggling body. Damsel nymphs in particular, they can grow up to anything up to 2.5 inches. So these things, they're not small insects. They're little protein packets, which is why the trout go absolutely crazy for them. When they're trying to build up those fat stores and the energy stores, well, what better can you have than damsels? And they're around all year. They don't hatch, of course, in the winter, but they're always moving around in the bottom of the lake or the river, depending on where you are. And they're always moving around. They're feeding on other insects. They're carnivorous, and they're going to be moving around. And when they swim, I don't know how much you've looked into it, but when they swim, particularly when they're due to transform, they will swim in very much jerky motions. So they'll swim up and then they'll drop, and then they'll swim up and then they'll drop, and they'll swim up and then they'll drop, and it's a propulsion, and that's why that little jerky retrieve, not too quick, not too fast, with a pause, and that's generally when you get the hookup, because the fish are hardwired into taking them. So I'm going to use enough of that. I tend to go with the length of my the first section of my thumb as a key indicator. I don't know if you can see that, key indicator of the amount that I need, which is about an inch and a quarter. So I'm just going to pull from the stem. And a good thing I found with Nature's Spirit marabou is that it doesn't all clump together at the base, and there is an excess dye at the bottom, which you find with a lot of marabous, which ultimately means you have a lot of wasted material. So it's worth having a look at when you get a packet of it, if you're somewhere, or lucky enough to be somewhere where you can actually physically see the packet before you buy. So I've got my my marabou here. I'm holding it in my right hand. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to clump it all together. I don't want it compressed at this point. I actually want it more in that the vertical plane, so that it's spread out a bit, so you can see it there. And there is a reason for that, which I'll explain in a moment. And then what I'm going to do is, we've got these yucky fuzzy ends at the end here, which can be an absolute pain in the backside. So all I'm going to do is take my scissors, and I'm just going to cut those off. So I've got a nice straight edge. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that in my right hand, and I'm just going to place it on the top of the hook, and I'm going to judge roughly the length of my tail. Now we'll talk a bit more about lengths of tails in a bit, and I've got my own favourite ideas, and other people have theirs. It's all relative, but it's better at this point to have more sticking out the end than not enough. So I'm just going to place it on the top, make sure I'm happy with that, and I'm going to hold it then with my left hand, and I'm going to do a little pinch wrap. So you can see I've pinched it and it's all loose here, and as I drop it down, it's just going to pull the marabou down onto the top of the shank of the hook, and I'm just going to put a second wrap in for a locking turn, and I'm just going to have a look and see how that looks. So there we go, it's there on the top. I'm just going to, not too happy with that, I'm just going to put another 2 turns in just to lock, so I can let it go without it going all over the place. You can see that by having the marabou in the vertical plane there, instead of it all clumping and going sideways, it's come out in a vertical plume here. So I've got lots of movement, and I haven't compressed all of these fibers. So as I just move through this, I'm just going to put some lock-in turns in. Okay, so my comment section on here, I can't see a lot because I can't see the front of my thing. So oh, thanks, Phil. Wales competing well at the breakdown. We should, because it's a key part of our game. Okay, so we got to this point here. Now, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to build my underbody using the marabou here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put another turn in. You'll notice tonight I'm going to try and use minimum number of turns that I possibly can. Less is more. It's a mantra that was drilled into me years ago. I'm just going to hold with my right hand. I'm just going to bring my thread back up towards the eye, trapping in the marabou on the top of the shank. I really don't want it spinning to the underside of the shank, because it just distorts the shape of the fly and the volume of the fly. The proportions go out of the window. Now, as I said last week, patterns are patterns and they come and go, and if you read back through the history of fly patterns back in the 19th century, there weren't many, and they were all very much much the same, just with slightly different colours and the odd different feather thrown in. But what will stand you in good stead always is techniques. So building your techniques, if you can get your techniques sorted out, you can. I'm a firm believer that you can tie absolutely anything. So as I'm just building this up, okay, and I've built it up, and I'm just going to take my thread all the way back down to the tail section again, in line with the barb, and so far so good. Okay, you can see that the rugby's getting a lot of love, which is fantastic. It's great. So don't tell me the score at all, because I've got it to watch later on. So we're set up. We've got a nice underbody here. We've got this flared tail, which is looking pretty good. Next thing on our list is some of this wonderful material, which I must get through half a ton of this stuff. Okay, so we've got some crystal flash. Okay, so crystal flash, there it is. So we got our crystal flash. Comes on this hank, and it's a very, very, very universally useful material. I tend to go for 5 strands of it on my damsels, and I do believe that putting this in is a bit of a game changer, because again, when I've used these flies to catch, they've outperformed on the day any that haven't had some of these little attributes in, just to as trigger points. So what I'm going to do is I've got my 5 points here. I've trimmed the ends to make them all level. There you go, bring it back there, to make it all level. And I'm going to tie 5 in on one side and 5 in on the other. So I'm going to start on this side. I'll turn it around so you can see in a second. I'm just going to put my thumb firmly on it, trap it down, and I'm just going to bring my thread across into 2 locking turns. So if I turn it so you can see that, yep, you can just see I've got them trapped in here on this side. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut the crystal flash just behind the bead, like so. So that's one side done. Second side, just exactly the same. If you've got a vise that rotates, that's absolutely fantastic, because it just makes it that much simpler and that much easier. And I'm just going to put 2 turns in, so one to trap in, second one to lock, and bring it back around, and you'll see that on your side there. And then I'm going to take my scissors and trim. Okay, so at this point we're starting to develop the tail section. Now if I can tie in lots of these, I'll tie in loads with just the tails and then tie off and then come back later and finish all the bodies, because otherwise it just gets a bit tedious if you're tying loads of them. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about what we're going to do with the tail towards the end, if that's okay, Phil. The it's all about the fish coming short and just pulling away. But again, I'll talk about that in a second, if that's okay. So far we've got that. Now we've got our blue flash coming in. So again, more of our holographic tinsel. There it is, blue holographic this time. You can put whatever you like in, to be honest. And I tie this particular pattern in black, red, white, yellow, blue. It doesn't really matter. It's the fundamental techniques that allow you then to build any sort of damsel-y type lure that you want to fish with. So at this point, I've taken about 3 or 4 inches of hollow tinsel, and I want it on either side again. So I'm going to go through the same process, and I'm going to tie it in on either side. You can make it as long as you like or as short as you like. I like to make them the same length as the crystal flash. Just makes sense to me. So again, locked it in, and again I'm going to come in and I'm just going to trim off, and then I'm going to put in again on the second side. There we go. And tie in 1, 2. Again, don't need a lot of turns. For those of you that experienced tyers out there, I see David Lloyd's joined us from Vicuna Dubbing there. Hi David. I'm sure David will agree that particularly for a lot of patterns that you might tie later on, too many wraps just builds up too much bulk. It doesn't allow you to have any real control about the final look of the fly, and that's where people really fall a bit foul. So less is more. Okay. my tankard's getting a lot of love at this moment in time. Yeah, this is my Wild Trout Trust 3 fly runners up challenge tankard that I won a couple of years ago. Should have won that day, to be honest, but hey, never mind. But yeah, it's a great one. It's a great tankard. Okay, so we've got our blue flash sections. And now you can put as many strips of blue in there that you like. You can use thinner and more. I tend to just go for 1. It seems to work, and it saves me a bit of time actually. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tidy up the body, so almost touching turns. They don't have to be, but I'm going to go fairly slowly all the way up, so that I'm not twisting all of those materials, because again, it's all about my profile that I'm looking for. So a nice slim profile running all the way through here. Okay, so what comes next? Well, let me just have a look over here in all of my little potions and things. What have we done with that? Ah, there it is, staring me right in the face. I'm going to go for a rib now. I do like to rib these, but not with a blue rib. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a wire rib, and I'm going to use some hen's chartreuse wire for this. This is 0.18 mil, so it's relatively thick. Do like the hen's range. Other wires, they're all fantastic. Just something about the hen's range and the colours that they do amongst all of those. So I'm just going to use an older pair of scissors, just going to clip that off. And what this will do is give segmentation, but also give protection. So I like my flies to take multiple fish. I don't see the point in tying a fly that is going to fall apart. straight away. So with this piece of wire now, I'm gonna use it to build the underbody as well, but I'm gonna try and keep it on the as close to the underside of the hook shank as I can. So I'm just going to push the end into the cavity of the bead, and then hold it with my thumb, and then that should keep it in place. And I'm just going to bring my tie-in thread all the way down. There we go, back down to the tail, and we're in play. Okay, so there it is, it's all in play here. I've got this little clip on the side here that I can just pull to one side, just trap it in to keep it out of the way for the moment. Okay, so I'm hoping that that you can see it all, because it's very weird. I've got my laptop that's on the side here, that's got lag, and I'm trying to look at what I'm doing in a mirror. It's mirroring the screen of my phone, because I've got anyway, it's the only way I could get it to focus on it tonight. So so there we go, we've got all of that set up. Okay, now this is where I'm going to go back to our marabou that we used earlier on, and we're going to use it to build a body now. The body that we're going to use, I want some quite long pieces of marabou here, because we're gonna wrap it around the hook shank. So I want the longest I can get. So, and I want about, I don't know, about 2 centimeters. I don't want a massive amount. I don't want it really bulky. If you look at these insects in their natural habitat, they are not big and bulky. They're streamlined killers, and you know, with these big mandibles, these big jaws at the front. So there we go. Just cut that off. That's going to form our body. Now that the end that we're going to tie in is I'm going to tie the tips in. So I'm just going to bring the tips together like this, hold them, so I've got this sort of shape, and like I've done before and like I did last week, save having to put it on top trying to measure it up. I'm just going to bring it underneath my vise. I'm just going to bring the thread up, and I'm just going to let it trap it down like that, so it's in position. I'm going to put a lock-in turn in, and then I'm just going to pull it so that the tips come down below the end of the bead. So, and then once it's there, I'm just going to take my tie-in thread and gradually just take it all the way up. Doesn't matter if you don't trap them all down, you can cut those down. And I'm going to take it all the way back up to the eye. So I've now got this material here ready to go in to be my body. Okay, so at this point, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm not touching it too much. My hand's quite sweaty tonight, so I don't want it lots of moisture. I want that fluffiness to be maintained in the marabou, and it's another reason why I quite like Nature Spirit marabou, because it tends to have that extra turkey fluffiness in it. So don't forget, guys, that after this, at some point over the weekend, the step-by-steps will go up onto the Facebook page, there to answer any questions as well. And hope you're enjoying what you're seeing so far. Please feel free to put any questions up into the comments box. I'm sure some of the other guys will be able to answer things as we're going along as well. And if I see them, that'd be great. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this and I'm going to build up my body. So I'm going to take it in the same direction as my tying thread, and just touching turns will do. I'm not twisting it. I want it to lay relatively flat, because I want it at the back to have less body than at the front. And you'll I don't know if you can just see, you'll notice that the marabou down towards the stem end is a lot fluffier and a lot thicker, and that I want to flare out at the head here to give a semblance of legs and gills, and it just adds that extra level of realism to the fly. So as we put it in, I'm going to build it up, and you can see that that fluffiness is starting to appear until we get to the bead. And there we go. And I'm just going to put a locking thread in, locking wrap, 2 locking wraps, and we're in. And then I'm going to take my scissors. I find these little curved scissors are really good for this, and I'm just going to trim it away. And that's fantastic. We get rid of the waste and just have a little play with this. You can see what I mean here with the this extra, the fluffy sections of the marabou, just giving it a leggy like appearance on here. Okay. Okay, so now it's time for the rib. You can just put the rib in exactly the same direction as your thread wraps and your body wraps. I would often say to people, go the other way, because if you go the same direction as your thread wraps, what will often happen is the wire will often bed into the gaps between your body materials, whereas if you come the opposite direction, it will sit on top and add an extra layer of protection to your body. So I'm going to start off quite close together towards the base. Then as I move up the body, I'm just going to widen slightly my my wraps of the rib. I'm going to take it right up until I come into the bead, and I should have I generally go for about 5 turns on the rib, and I'm just going to put a couple of locking wraps in. I'll use more locking wraps for the wire because it does tend to work loose, and at this point I don't want it to do that. Okay, so there we go. So we're all set. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to wiggle it so that it becomes loose. I'm not going to cut it. It's just left with an unsightly extra little spur of metal. The thicker the wire, the longer it takes to worry free. So I'm just going to worry it free. And typically when you're on camera, it just takes forever. And ever, and ever. There we go. Right, off it comes. Phew, took forever. So we're now left with the main section of our tail. We've got our body section here. Now we're not quite finished because there's a couple of extra little things. Now you can do lots of things here. You can put silly legs in. You can have rubber legs coming off it. I tend to go, and I quite like using natural materials where I can. So I'm going to go this time for some partridge, and good partridge is really hard to come by at the moment. So I've just opened up a packet of partridge that I had, and you can see that this would be a lovely feather, except that most of the good part's missing. So I can't actually use that, which is really gutting. So what I'm looking for is a fairly well-barred feather. Here's a nice example. Well-barred feather that isn't damaged in any way. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just strip off the flue at the end. Now, it'll be no surprise to you that this is actually nature's spirit, because it was the only olive I could find at the time. But if you can get hold of a full cape, partridge cape, it's much better to have your own capes. You get to pick and choose the size and the lengths of feathers that you've got. Okay, so here we go. There it is. Now, I used to tie in my feather and then wrap it from the tip. But I got bored of doing that, and it just took too long. So actually, what I now do is I take my feather, I just hold the tip, and I just stroke back all of these bottom parts of the feather. So it's like that. And I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm just going to nip out that top section. So I'm forming a V like this. I'm just going to even up the sides. Like so. Don't need a lot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on the top, and this is going to form or give some semblance of legs to our damsel nymph. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place it on the top, and then I'm going to fold the sides down with my fourth finger and thumb. And then I'm going to put a wrap on top and just pull in behind the bead. Not too much, don't put too much pressure on because you'll snap your thread. I'm going to put a second one in, and I'm just going to give it a pull, and you can see the partridge just splaying out from the side. I'm going to put a second lock in and another one, and we've got our blue flash damsel starting to really look like something that could really entice a few fish. Okay, so at this point I'm going to cut off my waist end. There we go. Now I'm just going to tidy up behind the bead, just to trap down those sections of partridge. Now you can leave it like that. You could whip finish, nothing wrong with that at all, but I quite like to put a little collar on of some dubbing. So I'm going to have a look and see. I'm going to jump into some of my favourites. You know, one of my favourite dubbings. Those of you that know me know I'll use this in absolutely everything. I'll even find excuses to put this into my flies, even if they don't need it. This is my trout stalker, Andrew Scruffy dubbing. And if you look on the back, he does all sorts of wonderful colours, plus loads of extras as well. He does custom ones as well. It is one of the finest dubbings that I found to use. It just dubs well onto onto your thread, but it also has some really beautiful vibrant colours. That isn't to say that I wouldn't use others. So others that I do tend to use quite a lot of. No surprise, David Lloyd's with us tonight, but I'm not doing this because he's here. I'd say this anyway. Vicuna dubbing. So here's the medium olive. I've got lots of olive colours in stock on my store, but you know, this is absolutely fantastic. And if you come across the box blends as well from Vicuna, so there they are, the box blends. You know, we've got some. This is the Welsh blend, and there's a really wonderful Morn olive in there that is a beautiful colour too. So I'm just going to grab a little pinch, just a tiny little pinch of Andrew's Scruffy dubbing. In fact, that's too much. Less is more, always. You can always add more. It's harder to take it away. Now, I don't tend to wax my thread too often because this is pre-wax, but I will want it if I need to. I find that this stuff, just with a little twist, it dubs on really nicely without any hassle. And there we go, we've got a nice little dubbing rope that starts to appear. Okay, I'm just going to have a look and see what's been going on in the various things. Okay, let's have a look. So I got messages coming up on here. Let's have a look what people have been asking. Okay, so let's have a look. Yeah, okay, so Chris, copper wire, you can use copper wire, use whatever you like, to be honest. I've got some really nice blue wire around somewhere. I do like the chartreuse though. Just adds that extra little bit of segmentation that you can see. And Dave's talking about teal. Yeah, teal's a really good substitute. You know, and if you can get it in and get it and dye it, it's absolutely fantastic. Might have some of that coming my way at some point. So watch this space. Yeah, Gareth Davis. Yeah, just got my Andrew Scruffy dub in and agree. It is brilliant stuff. Yeah, I tend to buy it in bulk. Dan's asking what materials are they, Mark? Oh yeah, okay. So vicuna is alpaca. Okay, so there's our vicuna. It's alpaca. It's exceptionally soft. It definitely gives seal's fur a run for its money in terms of bugginess. The fine vicuna is exceptionally good, particularly for dry flies as well. As we move, I do use seal's fur at times. I've got quite a bit of it, and some of it is over 40 years old. But there are so many good substitutes out there. I don't necessarily feel the need that I've got to put seal's fur into them unless I'm tying very traditional patterns. And thanks, Phil. Yeah, the taper. It's all about proportions. For me, the fly's got to look good. Not just for the fish. They don't really care, but I've got to have it as a confidence fly. And if I'm happy with it and I feel confident with it, I'm going to fish it with confidence as well. So I've got my my little noodle of dubbing just to tidy up the head. So I'm going to put in 1 and just give it a little twist to tighten it. 2, that's all I'm going to put in. I'm just going to pull it off there. I'm going to put a 3rd in. And there we go. And we're in. Now at this point it's worth checking, does that bead move? It shouldn't, because we should have packed it by now. So everything is locking it into place. Okay, and now a bit of varnish. So I'm going to use, there's a lot of debate about Sally Hansen the other day, or today on the forum. So some Sally Hansen, hard as nails. I do like Cilia varnish. It does soak into the thread much better than this, but this stuff just goes rock solid. So this is just going to hold everything absolutely in place, and it dries really quickly. So I'm just going to dab a bit onto my thread, like so. Not too much. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to whip finish. So I've got my whip finish tool. And I'm going to whip finish the varnish into just behind the bead. 1, 2, 3 turns for my whip finish. And we're done. And at this point, I think I said last week, I'm going to use a scalpel blade. I'm just going to place it in and just run it along my thread just to trim it off. Because then I'm not left with any little sections that just keep butting off. Okay. So there we go. Almost finished. Just need to check that I'm happy with the sides. Yeah, nice bit of bugginess going on there. Okay, and then we come to the bit here with the tail. Now, you could leave it like that. Lots of people like their long tails. I always find I end up, if I fish a long tail like this, I end up with lots of tail nips. And it'll feel, and I'll get a pull, a tug. And I get very frustrated because they're not committing to the fly. So what I do is I come in and I never cut it. Don't ever cut marabou. I just come in and I'm generally looking for maybe the length of the body plus a little bit more. So I'm just going to run my fingers down till I'm happy. Just make sure I am where I want to be. And then I'm just going to pinch it out. And that's where having it flayed in that horizontal plane works really well, because it's dead easy to just nip out with your fingertips. And there we have it. Okay, so we've got a blue flash damsel. The will catch fish no matter where you are. This particular one took a 14-pound rainbow out of Rockbourne on Thursday. So not this particular fly, but this pattern that I tied up. So we now have a completed blue flash damsel. Okay, let's just have a look and see what's in there. So we've covered the alpaca. So Dan's made a nice dubbing out of the dog's comb, brown and white spaniel fur mix. Made a great shrimp body. I think I put something up on the forum the other day as a comment on someone that I used to have this rather beautifully large ginger tomcat called Charlie, and when I used to comb him, his underfur was this beautiful cream colour. It made for some wonderful nymph bodies. Unfortunately, he passed away. So when he passed away, I had some of it shaved. Yeah, don't judge. And I've got a big bag of it. And it's one way of remembering that beautiful cat that I had. My other cats produce their own as well, so we know what's in store for them in one day. So Gareth's asking, how does that fly fish? As in, is it upside down on the retrieve? No, it doesn't. It tends to fish because the weight is in the head here. It's centered here, and we've tapered the body, and the proportions are correct. It will fish upright as you see it, and that head there, the bead, will allow the fly to go up and drop head first, very much like the actual insect would. They're not very, very graceful swimmers at all. And in fact, the only time that they really want to be swimming is when they're migrating to climb up the reeds and up grasses, so that they can transform and hatch. So if you wanted it to fall more centralized, you can move the bead into the center. I've got a fly here somewhere that I was gonna show. I'll find it in a second, where I've actually done that and built it so that it actually sits in the center of the actual fly. Don't know what I've done with it now. Got so much rubbish all over my desk. I'll find it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. I got it. Oh no, wrong one. It's around here somewhere. But yeah, so I built in the bead so it sits in the center, and it allows it to drop in one plane rather than at an angle as it drops in. Okay, so yeah, and when I'm fishing it, it's very it's not a strip. I don't often strip it back really quickly. I take a lot of fish with this on the drop, but also with the retrieve, where I pull the retrieve in a long pull and then just let it sink. And it's that sink when it's dropping down that often the fish will hit it, and they often hit it sideways because they'll come at it from not directly behind. If you've got them chasing it, and lucky enough down here in Hampshire we have pretty gin clear water, but if they're chasing it, often that quick pause, the hang, the drop, that's when they'll hit it and take it. If you try and explode the retrieve, make it quicker to entice them to take it quicker, they stop short and they move across. Okay. Oh, Dan Biggs, I keep bees as a sideline. If anyone wants any beeswax for threads, etc., DM me. Oh, Dan, we might need to have a conversation there, mate. And things for that. So yeah, so a nice typical blue flash damsel there. But you can do all sorts of things once you've got the techniques in play. That damsel will be absolutely deadly, and change the colours. You know, tie it in black, tie it in white, tie it in red. Those are the 4 key colours that I have in my box, and I'm sure that you'll take a couple of fish with it. So yeah, so thanks, Scott. Better colour of shirt this week, absolutely. Better video quality too this week as well. So as I said, after this, over the next day or so, give us give us the weekend. We'll get up the step-by-step for it as well, so that you can see it and download it. Really love to see your patterns, so if you want to post pictures and stuff, and if you do, tag us into it so that we know they're there. And at the end of it, you know, I might, if we keep doing this, I might just raffle off all the flies that I've tied on these. Let's have a look. Phil, would the fly count as a nymph on the Meon Springs catch and release? Ultimately, I think Greg would maybe raise an eyebrow. I wouldn't use it, but if I was going to use a damsel type nymph, I'd go for a much more realistic type pattern with a shorter tail, maybe a segmented tail on it. You know, but you know, we're looking at, I think I posted a picture the other day. You might, this has been quite productive for me on the catch and release, particularly at Meon, particularly on the longer section, on the bottom long section, fishing down the margins and bringing it back across in line in line with the weed bank, and the browns just come out and they'll hit it sideways. They'll either, a number of things happen. They either ignore it, and you just got to keep trying, and you know what it's like down on the catch and release. But what will often happen is that they'll come out from the weed and they'll ambush it, bang, and hit it, and you'll be locked in. The favourite one that they do all the time is, as you go to lift off to cast again, as you bring it up, and that movement just brings it up through the water on a slightly different angle, and it moves that little bit quicker, you suddenly find you're locked into a fish, and it's like, oh, okay, we've got fish on, which is absolutely fantastic, but it is a bit disconcerting. So this is a little damsel nymph. You know, it's got some buggy eyes on it. It's just got a thorax cover and a little bit of olive pheasant tail for a tail. Really is quite productive. Okay. Thanks, Gareth. Yeah, that's what we're here for, to answer questions and to give you some ideas. Thank you, Malcolm. First class demo. Thank you very much. And Phil saying, yeah, Copper John. I'll tie a Copper John one week. It's a favourite. I've always got them in my box. I'm always going to be using them, be it on the still waters or on the river. It doesn't matter whatsoever. You know, so I hope you've enjoyed tonight. And I'm still around for a little bit. I'm going to finish off my beer. If you want to throw in any questions, any extra questions, immediately after this, this video will go up, and you can find it, and we'll be saving it. It's also I'm also going to be uploading them to my YouTube channel, Lost Lake fly tying. So if you want to have a look on YouTube, we're going to be populating that over the course of the next couple of months with tying videos and demonstrations and chat and other stuff, and just, yeah, if you want to see particular patterns, just message, let me know. I like to think I can tie most stuff, and if I can't, I'll go and find out. But I'm having a real good time at the moment tying very traditional wet fly patterns, because it's something that's just reignited my tying passion. I just found that fly that I was talking about, so there it is. So I don't know if you can see that one particularly well. So you can see it's a very, very different style of damsel. So we've got at the front here, I've got some damsel eyes, red ones that we've put in. It's got a thorax cover of olive there it is, of olive pheasant tail. And then slap bang in the middle here, I've got my bead. So the aim of this one is that the fly will fish and drop in this plane rather than in this plane. So as it comes in, it drops like that. It was a particular ask from a customer. You can see the legs here at the back, and it's got the main body here with a little rib on it to give it a bit of protection. I was asked to put the white tail on. You know what the customer asks for, the customer gets, and I hope that it's been productive for the gentleman. I have yet to fish this myself, but I'm sure that it really will. Okay, right, let's have a look at what else is coming in. So Robert's asking about the vice. The vice always gets a lot of attention. It's a Mayer and Phasis speed vice. It's a custom German build. They're not off the shelf. You can't just go and buy one. You've got to go through some secret channels, I think. Kieran Nason and I, well, Kieran mainly, did all the legwork, and sort of we met some people on the internet and made some deals and managed to get some of these rather beautiful vices. There aren't many of them, I don't think, in the country at the moment, but it is rather beautiful. It's quite a significant setup. So I'll just turn. You can probably see. I don't know if you can see the rest of it there. If I just zoom out. Okay, so there it is. It is a lovely vice. Get asked quite often. Does an expensive vice make a difference? Well, not right at the start, but as the techniques become more challenging, and as your skills develop, it's a bit like driving a Ferrari. Okay, so yeah, I think it ultimately it does make a difference, but only if you're tying an awful lot. Okay, so let's have a look at what else we got. Teal, blue, and blue dun have given me a great deal of success. We'd be keen to see how to do them. Okay, that's not a problem, Eric. I'm sure we can do that. And Gareth says, fancy doing a killer shrimp pattern tutorial? Absolutely. Shrimps are something that that I do like tying, it's something which we can definitely do. That's not a problem. Eric also says, let's see, there's a damsel pattern I get from the chap who runs the rod box in Bullington. It's a yellow-tailed black body thing. They seem to be deadly around Hampshire. It's the fly I have caught most on. There are so many versions of the damsel around that it is absolutely unbelievable. And a lot of them aren't true damsels either. A lot of them, I will say, and I'll put this out there now, most of them are olive dancers. They're not damsel patterns at all. And the fish, particularly on still waters, dare I say, that and I was having this conversation with Aaron at Avington the other day when we were doing a bit of a feed of the fish in the stock ponds. We were talking about the need for the fish to be reared on high protein foods when they're rearing them, particularly on still waters, and the expense that there is in that, but also that often he's now feeding them with pellets that are floating, so that they're going to be looking up a lot, so they're going to be looking for more natural food all of the time. But at the same time, you throw in some of those pellets and the fish are just waiting for that plop. They're waiting for the ability to be able to see something that's come into the water that they're going to be picking up. It's a bit of a throwback, I suppose, to them picking up in the wild. They'd be picking up caterpillars and other creatures falling off trees, but I suppose when they're reared in stock ponds, it's a bit of a Pavlov's dog approach, really, isn't it? So what else have we got? So any tips for tying wings in the next few months? Do you mean wings as in wings of traditional wet flies, Scott, or up wings, or what? a bit more information there. Any of them are possible. We can have a go, and we can play around and see how those pan out. It's not a problem. Okay, so, well, it's 9 o'clock. It's been another hour again. It's crazy how quickly time flies on these things. So let us know how you do. The step-by-step will be going up. The video will be going up onto YouTube at some point as well. And yeah, be really interested to see your patterns. I'm a self-confessed fly geek. I do like my technical kit. I like my rods. I like my reels. I like my fly lines. But I get very passionate about what's at the terminal end of my fly line. I think it's something that people often forget, and a bit of research into the actual insects themselves is never, ever, ever going to hurt. And I see too many people at fisheries, and I'm sure we all do, who are stripping away with lures hour after hour after hour and aren't catching anything, or catching very little and not having much fun. And then somebody comes along next to them and puts on something a bit more natural and starts to hit into fish. It's just the way it goes, and it's the nature of our sport. It's one of the reasons I love it. So thanks a lot for joining me, and I'll leave you to the rest of your evening. I'm going to go and finish having a couple of beers now. But again, the comment section will still be open after this. Feel free to drop in any ideas that you would like us to cover, and we'll be back with you hopefully next week with another lockdown fly club for us all to get involved in. And good night from me.